Hey everybody, today we're going to show you how to do another install with some Tyrant CNC components, and today we're going to be working on a Glock 19 Gen 3 lower parts kit. Commonly called an LPK, a lower parts kit. This is going to be all of the guts, most of the internals that are inside your Glock 19. Being as the Gen 3 series of Glocks has been out for decades now, a lot of your components might need replacing, so these pieces from Tyrant CNC would be perfect as an upgrade. To get started, we're going to first remove the slide off of this pistol for our disassembly and also remove the magazine. So you can drop your magazine, set that aside. We're going to be doing nothing with the magazine today. Then we can remove our slide, and to do this, you can either lock the slide all the way to the rear, pull on this takedown bar, let the slide go forward, or you can more gently just rack it back 1/4 of an inch, take pressure off of this takedown bar, and then from both sides, you need to grab that and pull down on it. So we're gonna rack our slide just a hair, pull down. Now you can see the slide sitting on top of the takedown bar because it's dropped just ever so slightly. We already cleared this firearm and know it's unloaded, so you can pull the trigger and let your slide come off. We're not going to be disassembling anything out of the slide because this is a lower parts kit, your LPK. We can set this aside as well. To get started on this disassembly, you have 3 frame pins here. 2 of these frame pins should simply push out. You can see with our new frame pins from Tyrant, these are just round, smooth frame pins. So the factory ones are the same, and they'll just push out. What we want to make note of is this larger diameter frame pin has small trenches or carve outs, and there's going to be pins, springs, and metal caught in these metal trenches. Part of that is going to be your slide release, part of that is the trigger. So this large diameter pin, when we install it, we're going to want to gently push on it and wiggle those components back and forth. If you just try to hammer this out, you can wreck things. So now I'm going to take my small punch, push out this frame pin, and as we remove factory parts, we're going to take a look at them, but then I'm going to set them off frame. We don't want to get them mixed up with our improved Tyrant parts. This is plastic. Your Tyrant pin is going to be metal, so that is definitely an upgrade. We're going to set this out of frame, get it out of the way. Next, we have another small diameter pin. This we can push out. That is just a tiny bit bucky. Give it a little more push. If it's still not wanting to go, then we may need to give it a little tap. So with my small diameter punch, we're just going to give this a little tap. And that just started to go now. We can push this out. It's actually being a little tighter and buckier than we thought. We might need to tap that a little more. We can push this out now, hopefully. Now it's pushing out. Caught just a little bit on the opposite side. So now we have that factory pin taken out as well. We're going to set it aside as to not confuse it with our Tyrant parts. Our last pin here is this large diameter one we talked about. This should push out, but we want to wiggle different components back and forth as we're doing it. We'll give it a try from the opposite side. We can feel this being a little picky for us. And now it just released. We got to go out that far. Gonna give it a little bit more push, a little bit of wiggle. We're gonna see if we can't tap that out with our hammer. Still being a little bucky for us. And there you have it. Got a lot of tools on the mat here. We'll try and get these out of the way. So we have our third frame pin out. We still have all of our tyrant pieces here. We're going to set this factory part out of the way. Now, much of these internals we should be able to lift out because we have our 3 frame pins out. One of those pieces will be your slide release. You can set this aside. This will not be replaced. We will be reusing the slide release. We have our trigger block. And to help lift this out a little bit, I'm going to take this pick, gently lift and pry that up. Keep wiggling our little trigger block out. That is a tight fit. So we're going to keep trying to wiggle and pry that up. We're getting closer. Get that trigger block out. Pop the trigger block out. So we have that removed. We're going to set that aside. That we will be reusing as well. Now that we're this far, what we can do is take out our trigger shoe, this trigger bar, and this rear housing all in one. What we can do is grab this piece here, your ejector, and that'll all lift out. Now we're going to be doing some replacing and exchanging of parts right here. But what we're first going to do is work on the frame a little bit. What we have right here is your disassembly bar, your takedown bar. This is a component that we're going to replace today. The orientation of how we set this in here, the new one, does matter though. To get this removed from your Glock frame, what we want to do is pull this out from left to right or right to left, doesn't matter. But what's retaining this is this small silver spring embedded in the frame of the pistol. So what we want to do with a punch, a flathead screwdriver or something, is depress this, and this will be a tiny bit tricky, but we're going to push down on this silver piece here, this spring, and as that happens, try and wiggle and move this out of the way. I got that started, got it moving, and I just pulled it out. And as I pulled that out, you can see that on this takedown bar, there's a shallow trench, a cutout, a trough here, and we want to have that facing to the rear, away from the muzzle. So when we put the new one in, we want that facing to the rear, away from the muzzle. Being as we're going to replace this, we're going to set this aside for now. One other thing that we're going to replace in here is this silver spring or tab. To get this out, you can use a small pick or flathead screwdriver, and this is buried into the frame of the pistol, so we want to get underneath this and then lift upward and forward, up and out. We're going to see if we can do this first try for y'all. So we got a little flathead screwdriver here. Get this wiggling and moving. It looks like this is going to cooperate for us. And we just got out that silver spring. We're going to set this aside because this is a component we're going to replace. Get this out of frame. And now, since we have those couple pieces out, we're going to start putting in new ones. You can take this new spring, just this flat silver piece, and we can insert it into the gun like this. That's how it's going to sit inside the frame of the pistol. So we're going to move that into position. This is something you can hopefully gently set in. Now it's begun to fall into place. We're going to use a small punch and push it home, drive it home. If that's not wanting to fully go into place, then we'll maybe use a flathead screwdriver here and help push that down. can maybe use the flat edge, push that in. We want to get that down as much as possible. Now we can take our tyrant takedown lever. Remember, this trough or trench, this cutout area, is going to face to the rear, away from the muzzle. We can begin to slide this in through the side of the frame. And as we get that started, you can see we want to depress that silver spring so it's out of the way. Now we're going to push this down, get that takedown bar to slide over the top, and it just popped into place. We can quickly function test this by pulling down on both sides. It should spring and pop upward. That clicking, that popping sound is exactly what we want, because this takedown bar is what retains the slide from flying off the gun when you're shooting it. Now that we have those couple components installed, the next thing that we're going to work on is your magazine release spring. A lot of people don't realize that your magazine release spring is a metal rod that applies pressure and actuates against the magazine release button on the frame. To get that removed first, we need to dive deep into here and pick and slide this piece out of the way of the magazine release button. So we're going to use this pick, try and get underneath there and push and claw that out. See if we can get this to cooperate with us. And right there, if you can see it in the mag well, it just popped loose and it's on top of the mag release now. So what we should be able to do is push our mag release button out, and it just cleared and popped out. We're going to set the button aside for now. And what you can do if you want to get that one out is now we're going to resort to our needle nose pliers. The way that we're going to install the new one is grasping it like this and then inserting and shoving it into the mag well. So to get out the current one, we need to grab it and pull it out gently. So we're going to reach down in here, see if we can grab that, and it just popped out. So you can see that is going to be the magazine release button spring inside the frame that's applying tension to the magazine release button. We'll set this aside. Now, to put the new one in, we need to insert that deep into the hole where the last one just came from. We just slipped a hair, but it actually fell exactly where we need it to be. Now we're going to put the magazine release button back in right to left, and we're going to use our pick to get that spring out of the way of the button. So see, we have our spring lifted out of the way, but now we still need to get it to fall to the right into a little slot over here, so it's going to actuate. So I'm going to push, 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 and it clicked and fell into place. To check this quick, you can see that there's firm tension on the button. Put a magazine in, it retains it, magazine drops. So we have that piece installed. So now we're going to look at this rear housing, this connector, and this transfer bar as well. To get started in assembling this, what you can do is first put this connector in. This is something that's going to go on the right side of this housing, and it should just push and slide into this slot here. I'm just going to firmly push with my thumb. That's all you should need. That's pushed into place. Now, what we want to do is put this silver connector bar, it looks like a crucible, this cross here, and that's going to fall into here, and then you're going to slide it to the side in here. So that's going to fall in here in the rear housing, a little crucible or cross, and that's also going to poke out to this side here, and when you're shooting and the gun's working, it's going to actuate and move back and forth. But before we get that far, what we do have to do is connect a spring. What we have here are these pieces and this spring. This spring you want to have in the shape of an S when it's connected to everything. It should look like the letter S. So we have an open loop orientated in this fashion, and then we have an open loop on the bottom. So I'm going to connect this here, get this hooked in here. That just hooked in. And then next, we want to get this hooked into here. This might take a little more pushing and tough love. And then flip it over the top. So now we have this connected. We put our spring on in an S pattern. We're going to twist this crucible. This is now connected all in place. So now that we have this rear housing, this crucible, this transfer bar all installed, we can put this into your Glock pistol. On a factory Glock pistol, you won't be able to reuse this trigger shoe because it has a one-way pin holding in the factory trigger shoe. So what you're going to need to do is hit up TyrantCNC.com and get a new trigger shoe, a Glock one, from us to finish off this lower parts kit, the LPK. We're going to finish this install by installing all these LPK parts, but then if you want to have a trigger inside of your Glock to be able to go bang bang, you're going to need to grab a trigger shoe, a trigger, from us to install here as well. So to get this started, what you can simply do is press this into the rear of the frame. When you do this, you want to make sure that this is all flat so it can just press into the frame. That just simply pressed in. I didn't have to fight that at all. Next, we're going to put our trigger block in, this big metal block. Push that into place. Next, we can put our slide release in. That's going to be in its correct spot. And now we can start putting frame pins in. To start, I'm going to put the rear pin in. This you can hopefully push in. If not, a couple love taps. Next, we can put in our large diameter pin. And to do this, you're going to want to make sure that it goes through our slide release. That went better for us. Now we can push that all the way through. Then we also have a smaller diameter frame pin here. We can push that in. And we're going to have to push down this small little paper clip wire here. Get that to clear and be out of the way. Might need to start this from the other side. And then push it out of the way here. That's all the way through. So there you have it, guys. We have all of our Gen 3 Glock 19 lower parts kits pieces installed. The only thing that we're missing currently is a trigger shoe, and that is something you can get from us at TyrantCNC.com. And as always, whether you're working on a Glock, an AR-15, or innumerable other pistols and firearms, if you need parts, hit us up, TyrantCNC.com. As always, we'll see you again next time.